It's been, you know, a tough journey.
Yes.
When you first took the reins, what were some of the major hurdles you had to overcome, and what were some of the major milestones you were trying to reach?
Yeah, you know, I think some of the biggest hurdles, if I had to describe the biggest single hurdle, it was the lack of definition of the project. And what I mean by that is, you know, when I got here, a lot of things were not done, like enough design work done to know exactly what you're building, to know exactly how much right-of-way you need, to know exactly which utilities you're going to move. You know, the precursor to all of that is getting your design work done. Mm-hmm. So it was important once I got here that we got more definitional about what we're doing. Getting that design work done has really helped us a great deal. Now we're advancing that construction work in the Valley in such a way that the first construction package is substantially complete. Mm-hmm. The right-of-way is 99% in hand.
Finally.
Yeah. And we moved about 80, we have moved or are moving about 85% of those utilities, which means a lot of the risk for delay and cost is behind us now. And I really like the way we're going forward. Mm-hmm. We're getting the work done in the right sequence going forward. And I think that will bode well for a better future for the project. I think the chances of the kind of delay and risk and cost increases that we saw in the past on this project, I think that's largely going to be in check going forward because of that definition and because we're doing it the right way going forward. Mm-hmm. And so I'm still very bullish about this project.
Were there ever times where you might have had a twinge of doubt, like, oh, this will be that tough?
I started with a whole head of hair. And so there has been a lot of moments of doubt. And again, like I said, it's that series of near-death experiences. I would be lying if I suggested to you that I slept easy every night. There were many nights I went to bed and thought, am I going to wake up to a project tomorrow? But we did. Certainly, we've learned a lot of lessons here at High Speed Rail. And we made our share of mistakes. And we've been very, very candid about that. And as I said, we've been transparent about that. We've talked about what we're doing about it, and we're moving forward in a better way. But I think more broadly, going to the public and saying, will you fund 1/5 of what this project will cost at the time? Mm-hmm. 1/5, and then rely on us to go find the other 4/5, right? That's not the right way to build any mega project. And I think we all could learn from that, because here's what part of the problem is: if it's unfunded from day one or underfunded from day one, you're always spending time catching up to the cost, because over time the cost will go up. And especially on these projects, the magnitude of the materials you need, mm-hmm. the steel, the concrete, the personnel, it's very expensive. And every year it's delayed. It's literally billions of dollars. Mm-hmm. And so if you don't have full funding, you can't deliver under a schedule. And you really got to go in with the full funding for the element you want to get done under a schedule. And it is impossible for any entity to commit to a schedule if it doesn't have the funding to do so.
I'd love to hear more of lessons learned. I wonder, was there...
The list is long. Are you ready?
Yeah. For instance, could there have been more high-speed rail expertise in terms of consultants?
Yeah. I mean, I think there was a lot of things. If I had to point to 2 or 3, maybe 4 things that are really important, is one, I would not have gone to the ballot then with knowing so little about what we're ultimately trying to do and asked for only $9 billion for a project that, again, that same ballot pamphlet on that same election said the project was going to be $45 billion, mm-hmm. and the public gave us $9. Mm-hmm. So again, from day one, you're starting with, I'm underfunded, and now I got to spend a lot of time finding the money. Mm-hmm. And the longer that takes, the more expensive this is going to get. So that's one element. We should have started with a better sense of what we wanted to do and then a fuller funding commitment. So that's one piece. Secondly, when the federal government gave this project some money back in 2009 and 10, it put some strings on that money, including it had to be spent by a date certain. Mm-hmm. Now on this project, common sense would say, oh, that's not a bad idea. But on this project, because it was not very well advanced, the authority at that time made commitments to spend those dollars under the deadline. And that got us into construction prematurely. And so we didn't have all the right of way in hand. We did not have all the utilities moved. Yet we had let contracts and we were in construction. So then when the authority later ran into delays because the right of way wasn't in hand and the utilities weren't moved, those were just bills from the contractors for delaying them. And that is part of the legacy of this project. But again, so that's a lesson learned too. But again, the thing I would say is that's a legacy, but it's not the future of the project. I mean, the future of the project is better because, as I said, I think the way we're going about it moving forward, the sequencing of work we're getting right. And I think that will eliminate a lot of delay and risk later and cost. So those are a couple of lessons learned. I think the other one was there was a period of time, we're responsible with clearing, environmentally clearing all of the project from San Francisco to LA and Anaheim. And when I got here, only about 119 miles were cleared. That's almost a 500-mile stretch. So, and I think there was a mistake made some time ago where they sort of stopped the environmental work to focus on some things in the valley. But if the project is San Francisco to LA, you don't stop that work. And so we really restarted it again when I got here in 2018. And today we're on the precipice of having 463 miles cleared, which is all of downtown San Francisco to downtown LA. And so that will get done in June of this year, all of it. And that is just another lesson learned. You can't pick and choose how to advance. You got to advance everything. And especially when you have a federal partner who's expecting deliverables. And so, that's another sort of lesson learned. So there's a couple there that I think about and point to.
Okay.
And I guess the last one might just be the organization itself. You got to do a very big project. And at the time the bond bills came, there wasn't really even an agency here. It was about 12 people deep with a bunch of consultants. And that's not really what you need to do to be ready to be successful. So it's a different story today, but it's a history of learning a lot of tough lessons, but they've been learned. And I think that's the important thing.
So what right now is, and I know it's always a moving target, but what is the general expected timeline for completion? Yeah,
so we've been consistent on this. For the first operating segment, we have a delivery window between 2030 and 2033 for the first 171-mile operating segment connecting Merced, Fresno, and Bakersfield. To go all the way to San Francisco and all the way to LA and Anaheim, that's a funding question. Those are unfunded elements. So our approach is to advance the design work and the geotechnical work on everything outside of the valley, but get the operations going in the valley. And so as it gets operational, people can experience the technology, see what it does, see how it works, understand the benefits of it. I'd like to see the authority advance the work on the pre-construction activities for all of the San Francisco to LA segment. And that's like geotech work, design work.
What's the legal situation like these days, or all the lawsuits?
It's so much better than when I got here. I mean, at one time, this authority had, I think, 12 CEQA lawsuits pending. And then we cut that down to about 7. And then I really focused on settling those 7, which we did. And that was only when we had 119 miles cleared. Now we're up to 422 miles cleared as I'm sitting here. And we had 3 major lawsuits filed on more of the environmental work. We've settled one of those. The other 2 are in stays right now while we negotiate settlement. So I'm confident that the much fewer lawsuits will be settled, and we're hoping to get them settled in 2024.
That would be awesome.
So, yeah, exactly. And so then I really feel good about where we are.
The IIJA, and a well-known train buff as our president, do you think that gave a decent boost to this effort?
Yeah, it's a lifesaver. I mean, we'd be in a real tough spot without it right now. But I think, I don't want to get political, but elections matter. Elections matter for these kinds of projects. And the IIJA, I think could be just the tip of the iceberg of what they really want to do over time. And I think there's a real commitment to rail in America, not just here in California, but in America, including high-speed rail. They're going to need more time to make that work. But I think the IIJA was just a godsend for us. When I first started here, I couldn't even ask anybody for money because of where we were. But then when that bill passed and we'd gotten a little bit better at what we were doing, you know, in 2023, we got $3.3 billion, which was just a great year for us. Now we need more. We got to keep going. But I think that kind of continuity at the federal level helps. And we shouldn't kid ourselves either. You're not going to build sustainable, long-term high-speed rail anywhere in America without a strong federal partner. We have to have it.
Yeah.
And so I think if that's there going forward, we will be fine. If it's not, it will be harder. And so those are tough challenges in front of us.